All right, let's take a look at gold. I think we're getting pretty close to the point of maximum frustration for gold bugs, which probably means we're getting pretty close to a final, what I think is going to be an intermediate cycle low. This is a little bit fuzzy. This looked like an intermediate cycle low here, but it seems unreasonable to me that we would have a first daily cycle that left translates, and I think this is probably going to undercut this here. So I'm operating it under the assumption that this is not going to turn out to be a final intermediate cycle low, and the cartel. Um, First off, with the dollar rallying, the cartel is going to have a much easier time um, manipulating gold lower. And we've had multiple warning signs that this was coming. You get these huge attacks. Now this, granted, was triggered by the Fed talking about tapering QE. So, I guess you could make a case that this is maybe somewhat natural, although I really don't think you'd have this big of a sell-off naturally. But same thing happening here. This kind of a complete collapse is never going to happen naturally. Here, gold gets above the 200-day moving average, and then you have this huge attack the very next day. So, as I've said many times in the past, gold or metals are probably the second most manipulated market on the planet, second only to the currencies. Governments have an inflation problem. They've got a vested interest in trying to suppress gold and push it down in the hopes that the rest of the commodity markets will stay in check. So we're getting pretty late in this daily cycle, but I do think there's plenty of time left to try and undercut this. The employment report next Friday, not this coming Friday, but next Friday, if I'm not mistaken, is the most likely trigger event for the bottom. So I'm assuming, and I've seen people trying to pick bottoms all the way down. There's a lot of people that didn't honor their stops, especially in miners. As I've said before, I'm not fond of miners at all anymore. It's one of the favorite spots for the cartel to just naked short the miners and keep the metals suppressed. But the COTs are starting to get very bullish for gold and silver. So I think we're close, but I think they've got an open door here where we're kind of starting to break through this last little level of support here. So I think they've got an open door between now and next Friday, especially if the employment report turns out better than expected. That could be the final big whoosh down. So anyway, I'm assuming that we're probably, the cartel's probably got an open door here to take this down and break this pivot right here and give us another failed daily cycle. Now that doesn't mean there isn't going to be a bounce or an up day here and there, but I doubt that we're going to get a daily cycle low until the cartel tries to break this. At that point, then I'm going to be looking for an intermediate bottom and a rally, something that could last 8 to 12 weeks. But I do not think at this point, let me widen the chart a little bit. All right, so at this point, I think I'm more or less convinced that this is the top of the 8-year cycle. I do think the cycle is going to shrink a little bit. I think it's probably going to come sometime in 2022 rather than 2024. So probably any break of this support zone, it's going to get gold bugs completely. They're going to completely throw in the towel. As it is right now, I've seen a lot of them. They just keep holding and hoping that they're afraid to stop out because they're afraid that the bottom's going to come just as soon as they do. And I've already watched. I had I had my line in the sand stop on, especially on miners, much higher. And I've already watched people that have held on, afraid that they're going to sell at the bottom. They've already added another 10 or 15% to their losses in mining stocks by not honoring that stop. And we gave metals every chance to rally, and they just didn't do it. So at some point, you just have to have a line in the sand that you're just not willing to go past. But I think a break of this triple bottom right here probably will not produce a sustained move down. So that would be the point at which I would be looking for, like I said, a more sustainable bounce, something that's going to run for 8 to 12 weeks. But I doubt that it's going to be able to get above this peak here before we, maybe we get to 1900 and then we roll over again and come back down and have to make a lower low. I don't think the 8-year cycle low is going to go lower than 1550, maybe 1500 at the most. And realistically, let me widen the chart again. This consolidation of this cup and what appears to be a cup and handle pattern, the cup took almost 10 years. So I guess you could say it's probably a little unreasonable to think that the handle's only going to last 1 year. 2 years isn't unreasonable for a consolidation pattern this large. So I think we're going to probably have a very convincing bounce again once we get this intermediate cycle low. But I think gold bugs should be prepared for the bounce to not make a higher high. I don't think it's going to make a higher intermediate high, and then we'll come back down and maybe we'll reach like 1600 and another bounce and then another move down, and maybe our final 8-year cycle low in the 1500 to 1550 range. And then at that point, I think we start a new 8-year cycle and we get our rally that breaks out of this cup and handle pattern and gives us the bubble phase of the gold bull market. But for now, let me go back to that daily chart. I think I would be a little patient. I don't think I would, if we get a bounce anywhere in here between now and next Friday, I don't think I would trust it. And I am assuming that the cartel is going to pull out all the stops to try and run this triple bottom, and then that's the point at which I might become very interested in not really miners. I don't think. I think I'm done with them for the foreseeable future. But I might be interested in buying or trading some silver at that point. But with the employment report being the most likely trigger event, I don't think you need to be in a big rush to do anything at least until that occurs next Friday. And especially if we can get an undercut of this triple bottom here, then that might be the spot where I would be willing to take a shot for an intermediate trade in metals, something that could last anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks before you got to get out and get out of the way again, because I don't think this move into the 8-year cycle low is done.